Water is essential to the homestead, and not just the homestead, but just life in general. And understanding rainwater harvesting and rain barrel basics goes a long way to providing you water security. Hey everybody, welcome back to Grumpy Acres. Well, if you hadn't guessed it, this video is about rainwater harvesting and rain barrel basics. All right, first off, let me start. This video is not going to be about how to build a rain barrel. There are hundreds of videos out on YouTube that can show you how to do it, and they're really good. So what we're going to talk about is the concepts behind rainwater harvesting, and then go over some of the basic components of a rain barrel. That way, whenever you go to build one and you're watching these videos, you understand what they're talking about when they mention these different components. All right? Hey, before we go on, if you're new to the channel and you make it to the end of the video, think about subscribing. We'd like you to join us on this journey towards a life done free. All right, now on to rain harvesting and the basic components of a rain barrel. So, a little background. We've been here 2.5 years, and I've needed to get rain barrels in. We had them at the old house, and we just haven't had a chance to get them in. There are projects that kept getting pushed aside. Well, I decided in July I was going to try to do one rain barrel project a week until I got them done. Well, that didn't really work out, so now I've kind of amended it. So we're going to try to get at least one done a month. And it's not just rain barrel, it's rainwater harvesting, because there's more to rainwater harvesting than just rain barrels. So that's what prompted. And last week I put my very first rain barrel in. Boom, got it done. I actually felt really good about that. So before we talk about the basic components of this thing, let's talk about rainwater harvesting. Okay, there's a couple of things that you need to think about whenever you're doing this. Number one, be aware of what the law is in your states. As crazy as it sounds, there are states that say it is illegal to harvest rainwater. And the concept of the state owning the water that falls from the sky just boggles my mind, but it is what it is. And at this point, the only advice I can give you is if you live in a place like that, you need to do one of two things. You need to advocate to have the laws changed, or move. Right? It's that simple. If you want a good resource on learning how to deal with local governments and state governments, friends of ours, actually our community did it, but a friend of ours is hosting the channel. It's called the Northeast Open Government Project, and we are filming government meetings that we go to, and we're putting them online uncensored, except for whenever somebody's personal information's out there. And it's a really good starting place, and give you some insight into how to deal with stuff like this. The second thing is, you need to understand how much water you're going to get. That way you can scale your system to maximize how much water you're harvesting. Okay, so here's the math. You got to do some math here. So to calculate the amount of rainwater that you get in a 1-inch rain off of any surface, what you do is you take the length. So for example, this roof right here, we take the length of it by the width, which is there up to the top, and we times it times 0.62. So for example, you've got a 10 by 10 roof. We're just going to use that because the math is easy. 10 by 10 is 100 times 0.62. You're going to get 6.2 gallons, or 62 gallons of water off that rain. See, math is kind of hard sometimes. I'll admit it. I just had a blonde moment there, but that's the way you did it. And I ran the math on this roof surface right here, and I came up with roughly 368 gallons off a 1-inch rain. And then once you figure that how much it is, like if you get half an inch of rain, you just take that number times half. If you get a 4-inch rain, you take that times 4, and that tells you how much rain you've been able to harvest. You've had the ability to harvest it, assuming you've got all the components in place. All right, so now let's talk about the components of a rain barrel itself. All right, and some of the ideas behind it. So probably the most important thing of a rain barrel is the container itself. Now you can buy all sorts of different commercially made rain barrels, and they're all, you know, as long as they are food grade plastics, they'll work. You don't want anything that's not food grade because you'll get BPAs off gassing into it, and it's not really good for you. Also, you can buy things like this IBC tote. These come in 325 and 275 gallon sizes. Make sure that they've only been used for food. This one was used for vinegar, like commercial grade vinegar production. But so you want to do that. You can buy big poly tanks to use on them. Poly tanks right now, it's August of 2024. Last time I checked, poly tanks were running about $1 to $1.02 per gallon. So if you get a 1,000-gallon tank and it's $1 per gallon, it's going to cost you $1,000 for a 1,000-gallon tank. That's a rule of thumb. That's just me looking around. My suggestion for getting containers like this or other poly tanks, auctions. Farm auctions are a great place to look for these things. We ended up, one of our community members found a deal where we got a whole bunch of these for 25 bucks a piece. And, you know, you can look on Craigslist and they'll go for 35 all the way up to, I've seen them at $65 a piece. All right. The next thing about the container is you want to make sure that it's light proof, like the light can't get through it. So for as example, so this IBC tote came, it's a white plastic, so the light can get through. And the reason why you don't want the light to shine through is because it will cause bacteria to grow. So you can do it several different ways. You can, if you get an underground poly tank, you bury it. That makes it so there's no light getting in. In this case, I took 6 mil plastic, black plastic, and wrapped it around it. Make sure if you're using the plastic that you're getting something that's UV resistant, because if you don't, after 3 or 4 years, that plastic's going to degrade and you're just going to end up having to take it apart and redo it. And all I did, I've got duct tape. If I was worried about aesthetics at this point in my life, that duct tape would be black so you couldn't see it. Another way to do, to make it light proof is to paint them. I think Krylon is who makes it, but they make a spray paint specifically made to bond with plastic. And that can get a little expensive because for something this size, you're probably going to use 4 or 5 of them at $10 to $12 a piece, I think is what they're running now. I know you'd have to go check online to see how much they are now. But the plastic, once you spray it on though, it sticks to the plastic. It's actually a really good product. It's cheaper. I got a 100-foot roll of this for $24, and that's going to be enough to do 3 or 4 of these tanks, right? Whereas if I was spray painting them, I'm looking at what, $50 a piece in paint. So that's what you want to do. The next thing, once we think about our container, is our stand. Now this one, I've got this up on blocks. Now the reason why a stand is important, if you've got a rain barrel that sits directly down on the ground, you're not going to be able to get a bucket underneath it, and you're going to have a hard time getting hoses connected. So you raise it up and make it higher. So this is high enough that I can put a 5-gallon bucket here underneath the outlet. So get the stand. As you can see, I use cinder blocks. I put flat pavers underneath them to spread the weight around. And you got to make sure it's sturdy enough, because water weighs about 8 pounds a gallon. This is 325 gallons. So we're looking at 2,600 pounds right here when it's full. All right. So you need to make sure you do that. And as far as the container and the stand goes, you can make it as decorative as you want. So the plan is, I'm going to put one of these on the front of the building, on the front of the house where it can be seen from the road. I'm going to pretty it up. I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to get pallets. I'm going to get wooden pallets, and I'm going to wrap it in wood and make it look like it's a wooden rain barrel. You can make it as pretty as you want. I've seen people wrap bamboo around it. I've seen people hang, the one guy I saw hung a cheap camouflage netting across the top of it, so it made it look like a big giant strange looking bush. But you can do different things. All right, so let's move to the plumbing. So your rain barrel is going to tie into your downspout. And we've got some different components on the downspout that are essential to making sure that it works properly and you get good quality water. So the first thing is going to be a debris catcher. So this one, I just got this one from Lowe's. And what it does, the water runs down and leaves will get collected right here, and you can go out and clean them by hand. And if it's raining hard enough, they'll just come out by themselves. In fact, you can see there's one right here. So I got this in and it immediately rained and filled this thing up in 2 rains, right? So you've got your debris collector, and then you've got the diverter. This part right here is the diverter. So it's going to send water down here into the first flush system, and we'll talk about that. Or it's going to send it over to the tank. All right, now the first flush system. What this does is the rain comes down into the diverter and will come down into the first flush system and fill this up. And what that does is it catches all the little tiny debris like rocks and dirt and parts of the leaves and stuff that make it past the diverter. And this will fill up, and then you've got something in here. You can use a little plastic ball, or I like using empty water bottles because they're free. But as you can see, so it goes 4-inch down to 2-inch and then back up to 4-inch. So this makes a little point right here. As this thing fills up, the water fills up, and whatever's in there acts as a stopper, plugs this up, and then the water fills up the diverter and goes in the tank. Now, a couple of things to think about whenever you're putting your first flush system in. I'm not going to lie, this one is probably a little too small for the size of that roof surface. I probably should have made it a couple of feet taller, because the more flush you've got, the less chance of getting sediment into your tank. But down here on the bottom, if you look, right down here, I don't know if you can see them, I drilled weep holes. And so what happens, the water comes down here, and the water will come out of this. So when it stops raining, the water will drain down and it empties out. So you don't have standing water in there. And another thing is, on the bottom, right down here, I've got a clean out thing. So I can unscrew it and get any dirt and debris, because it will fill up. And the reason why I put these holes up so high is because it will fill up, and I don't want to have to come in here constantly and have to clean this. So as soon as these stop weeping and water starts staying in here, I know it's time to go clean that out. All right. Now, the next thing. So the diverter goes into this pipe. It's a 90-degree pipe going down into the top of the tank. And I just used a little 2-piece coupler that screws on there. Now, my old tanks, what I used to do is I would have the input, and then I would have a separate pipe coming out and going as an overflow valve. And the thing about the overflow valve, as you can see on this one, I just used a sanitary tee with the curve going up. All right, so the water is going to flow down here, and it's not going to flow through this outlet until this thing fills up and overflows into this. Now, key point, physics. Physics mean a lot. You want to make sure that your outlet is lower than your inlet, or else what's going to happen is the water is going to back up through your inlet and get in the diverter, and it's just going to cause problems, right? And then this goes down the back of the tank, and I've got to get in there. I've got to get one of those plates that you put down. I'm off the top of my head, I can't remember what they're called, but you put it underneath your downspout to keep the water from eroding down by the foundation and divert the water away. And then, if you're using an IBC tote, they've got a big valve right here, and I've got a cap on this, and it's actually got a spigot, right? I don't like this spigot because it's too small. And I've got another one on an old rain barrel that I made that's got a much bigger diameter in it. It's the same inch connector for hoses. But this one, you know, if I turn this on, that's how much you get. Now the pressure coming out of this is going to depend on your head pressure. And your head pressure is how much water is sitting above your outlet, right? The more water you've got, because remember I said water weighs 8 pounds per gallon. The more water you've got up here, the more pressure you're going to come out of here. So as the tank goes down, the pressure is going to get less and less, all right? So just remember that, because It's not like your hose where you're going to have a constant flow, all right, the constant pressure. It's going to vary by how much water you've got coming out of it. Well, and that's about, oh, maintenance on it. So periodically, so when I put this together, here, when I put this together, this pipe right here is not glued in, all right? So I can take this tank and I can move it. All I got to do is pop this pipe off, and I can take the tank down and clean it out. And what I personally try to do with the IBC totes is about once every 3 years, I will pull it out, empty out all the water, and I'll pressure wash it. Periodically between now and the time I pressure wash this thing, I will hit it with some bleach. Just throw some bleach in there to make sure. Now the water coming off your roof, is it potable? Is it potable water? I would not drink it without running it through a very, very, very good filter. Now, if you have a metal roof, it's going to be much better to drink after you've filtered it than if you're coming off an asphalt roof, especially if that roof is brand new, because you're going to get stuff leaching out of the asphalt into the water. Now, the animals can drink it, but I wouldn't want to have my family drinking it, okay? With that said, you know, I know people, if you go over to Tag, Life Done Free with Tag and B, he's got some videos about his rainwater harvesting system. He harvests like 30,000 gallons of water at a time, right? And he's got a fantastic filter system that uses UV and osmosis and all kinds of stuff. And he can switch from well water to rainwater and be able to drink it and use it, you know. So it's just a matter of filtering it properly and making sure that you've got the right surface material so that you're minimizing the amount of contaminants you get. And understand this, and I learned this from Tag. Understand this: no matter how much you filter rainwater, it's gonna have some stuff in it. All right, it's just the nature of harvesting rainwater, right? So I got that one in. I've got 4 more IBCs coming. I've got, if you look over there, where is it? Right there in the corner, those little black things. Those are 55-gallon drums. I'm gonna do the feed shed. I've got the chicken coop and the other duck, and right now it's a duck and guinea coop. I've got those I need to put stuff on. So yeah, I mean, you can collect as many rain barrels as you have. I would put as many in as you can to collect as much rainwater as you can, and you never know if you're reliant on a well. That well could go dry. There's houses up the road that the people had to sell. They're abandoned right now because they don't have county water connection, and the well's dried up, and they can't use them. They can't live there unless you're hauling water in. You know, if you're relying on county water, you know, rural water or city water, power goes out, those pumping stations quit working, and as soon as the water in the towers is gone, if they can't fill them full of water, you're not getting any. All right, so these are things that we need to think about as we're developing a rainwater harvesting strategy and concerning ourselves about rain barrel basics. Well, there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Go out, like I said, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of videos out there to show you how to make a rain barrel. You make them in any way you want. There's so many different designs. If you made it this far and you're not a subscriber, like I said, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We do things like this. We talk about politics as they affect us on the homestead. We talk about personal stuff and some spiritual stuff, and we just, you know, whatever strikes our fancy. I'll be honest with you. There's the only main theme on this channel is living a life done free. So we talk about everything involved with living a life done free, and so you get a mixed bag. If you want to support the channel financially, you can go down to the affiliate links. We've got foodforestnursery.com. We've got All American Sun Oven. We got the RockPot. We got Jace Medical. We got Without Rule of Law cards. That is a really cool thing. Go check them out. Anytime you buy that, it helps us financially. And any money we make off of those goes directly into the channel to make things better, so we can give you better content. Most importantly, most importantly, after you comment down below and you share this video, I need you to go out, turn the computer off, turn the TV off, turn your phone off, and go pursue a life done free. All right, take care. Thanks, Milo.